Britain, or the United Kingdom, is made up of 4 countries: England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland. I live in England, and this is my street near where I live, and I'm walking up the road towards the bridge, which you're going to see in a moment. And on the other side of the bridge is Wales. So the bridge and the river form the border at this point between the countries of England and Wales. The border here, the river is the border, so wherever the river goes in this part of the country, that's the border between England and Wales. There's the bridge, and those cars that you can see over there, those are in Wales, but I'm actually now in England and walking along in England. And just here there's a signpost telling you that. It says that Scotland is 231 miles from here, Ireland is 178.5 miles from here, and Wales is 92 feet away from here. In other words, Wales is just a few metres away from here. All the measurements are in miles and in feet. In the United Kingdom, everybody still measures things in the old system with miles instead of kilometres, so that can be a bit confusing. Here we are. This is a farm, one of my neighbours. Andrew, he has sheep and cows. And I don't know if you noticed that car going by and the car that went by before are driving on the left hand side of the road instead of the right hand side. So that's another different thing about the United Kingdom. Everybody drives on the left and not on the right. So here we are at the bridge. So like I said, I'm still in England. Oh, here comes a car, a van, driving on the left hand side of the road. Here I am on the bridge. I'm in England. And this stone here that you can see, with the line down the middle, on this side is England, and on that side of the stone is Wales. Here's the river. Good morning.
Hello.
Can you tell us your name and a little bit about yourself?
My name's Colin Kirkby, and I've lived in Pristine on the English side since 1980, and I joined the town council on the Welsh side because you are allowed, if you live within 3 miles of the border, to represent the area on the council. So I joined the town council in 1987, and I'm now the longest standing councillor on the council at the moment, and I've been mayor of Pristine as an Englishman 8 times.
Can you tell us, before you go on, a little bit about the process of how you become mayor? Are you elected? Are you nominated?
Every 4 years we have elections for our community council, and you put your name down, and if you live within 3 miles of the area that it represents, you can stand. Then there's an election process, and those with the most votes, there's 9 representatives from Pristine, and we have 4 representatives from Norton, which is a smaller part of the Pristine and Norton Town Council, a little bit away. So we're all elected, and then there's 13 of us, and from within, there's a bicycle coming, you're about to be run over. Good morning, David.
Morning, team.
How are you?
Morning, Colin. Hello.
And then from within the 13 of us, we elect the mayor. Usually you have to have been on the council for a period of time, and you have to show that you're willing to work, and then you run the council for 1 year, and then your deputy mayor generally takes over from you.
And how many times have you been mayor?
8 times.
8 times?
Once
My
every
goodness.
4 years, more or less.
Here comes another car on the left-hand side of the road. In the middle of the road. And can you tell us a little bit about where we are now? Where are you standing? Where are we?
Well, we're standing on the border between England and Wales. And this is a really lovely ancient bridge. Before this bridge was here, there was a ford that went across this part of the River Lug. And
Can you just tell us what a ford is?
a ford is an area where you can cross a river before there were really big bridges. So they usually put stones underneath so that you could take vehicles across it. Horses and carts we're talking about.
Right.
So this bridge is built here. Good morning, David. And then the bridge was built, and it's a single track bridge with places for the pedestrians to get out of the way. And there are little stones on the edge of the bridges that were there to make sure that when the horses and carts came over, the wheels of the carts were pushed into the bridge if they were riding too close to the side of the bridge.
And how old is the bridge, did you say?
I've got no idea. I should think about 1700 and something.
Okay.
It's pretty ancient. And here on the bridge we have the dividing line between England and Wales. And on this side,
Just a moment,
Not
car
run
coming.
over.
I'll step into one of these
busier than
areas.
it's a very quiet border crossing. And on the left-hand side here, you can just see it says RCC, which is Radnorshire County Council, which no longer exists. It's been taken over by a much bigger council called Powys County Council, which is 25% of the land mass of Wales, but only 100,000 people. So it's a very depopulated rural area. And on this side it says Hereford County Council, HCC. So I'm now stood with a foot in Wales and a foot in England,
And
and about to get run over
Oh.
by both a bike and a car.
a Welsh bicycle and an English car.
Thank you.
Now, just to be clear,
Here comes our young Les, who runs one of the pubs in Wales.
oh, we'll ask him for a few words. Just to be clear, you didn't have to show your passport to cross this bridge.
No, we don't have to show our passport, and up until very recently, until this COVID outbreak, there's been no differences between England and Wales, but there have been very different regulations about what you can do under the COVID problems of this pandemic. Do come through, thank you. So, for instance, in England, more recently, you can travel anywhere in England, but in Wales, you were not allowed to travel more than 5 miles from your home. And they didn't want people from England coming into Wales to go across to their beaches. They used to have police, not here, but a little bit further, that would stop people and ask what they were doing. And if they were travelling from England, they got sent back. That restriction has now been lifted as things are opening, but it's the only time that there's been a difference between, all the time I've been here, in the laws between England and Wales. Otherwise, you wouldn't know this is a border.
Most people, I think, unless they were told, wouldn't realise, would they, that they were crossing?
No, most people
In
don't.
or
And
out
it's
of
actually
Wales.
quite, a lot of the town's visitors come and sit on the bridge because it's a lovely historic bridge, and it's great fun telling them that actually one might be sat in England and one might be sat in Wales, because they don't always spot that. It's not so obvious.
Well, thank you very much, Colin,
My
for
pleasure.
telling us about that
I
today.
hope one day your borders become as open as ours.
So here we are, we're in Pristine in our town on the Welsh side, and here we've got somebody who's selling furniture and plates and bottles and all the things that you can see here, and lots of different people are coming to look at the things. It's a beautiful sunny day. Hello,
Hi
can you
there.
tell me your name?
My name's Sarah.
And Sarah, what are you doing here exactly?
We had to clear a house from a relative who died recently,
Yeah.
and to get rid of all the stuff, we're having a yard sale.
So people just come by, and if they see something they like,
That's
they
right.
can buy it from
That's
you.
right, and it's all kind of relatively inexpensive.
Is it always nice weather like this to be having
Oh,
things
no.
on the street?
I've had to wait for about a month to get a sunny day.
Was it raining all this time?
It was.
Oh dear. And have you got a customer at the moment?
It looks like I might have.
Hello. What's your name?
Jeremy.
Hello, Jeremy. I'm just going to go around here because I've only got you in silhouette. Are you going to be buying something from Sarah today, or are you
I
just
don't know
looking?
yet. There's a lot of very interesting things here.
What are you interested in buying? Books, furniture?
I might need a new power drill. There's a few power drills.
Okay. And do you live here in Pristine?
I live about 6 doors down.
Uh-huh.
The one with the garden, you can probably just see it.
There's the garden down there. You live here. Our town is in Wales. What do you do? Do you work? Are you retired, Jeremy?
I was a psychotherapist.
Uh-huh.
I thought I'd retired, but I'm thinking perhaps not. I've had a few years not doing it, and I think it's a bit boring, so I think I'm probably going to go back to work.
And will you work, if you go back to your work again, will you work here in
in
Pristine?
I work from home, yeah. Have a job with a light.
You work from home, and what do you like about living here in Pristine?
It's a very interesting, unusual place.
Uh-huh.
As you know, it's on the border of England and Wales. So there's a lot of artists, a lot of musicians, a lot of people here have come from all over, a lot from London. There's some very nice bars, cafes, restaurants.
You mentioned the border. What does the border mean to you? Do you have to show your passport when you cross the border? Is there an armed guard on the border?
No, you wouldn't know there was a border. It's British Isles, you've got England, Wales, Scotland. On this island, anyway, there's obviously Ireland itself is different, but there are no.
So it doesn't cause you any problems in your everyday life?
There is no. You wouldn't know there was a border, except if the further you go into Wales, you hear people speaking Welsh or with a Welsh accent. a lot.
Welsh, is that a bit like English?
It's nothing like English.
Uh-huh.
It's an old Celtic language, and there aren't that many people who speak Welsh actually here. But Wales is very. All the signs and everything are in 2 languages.
So it's a different language. It's completely different from
Completely
English.
different.
Uh-huh.
Utterly
Okay.
different. Yeah.
And finally, do you, Jeremy or Sarah, have you got anything you'd like to say to our friends in Palestine who are going to be watching this?
I'm very, very, very sad and angry on a daily basis about what's happening to Palestine. And I know a lot of people who also are. Yeah, you know, and a feeling of, I don't know, impotence and
That you can't do anything?
That nothing seems to make any difference. You know, what can you do?
What can we do here?
I feel all those things very powerfully.
I'll
I think probably more than any country in the on this globe, it fills me with, you know, grief and anger and all kinds of things.
And Sarah, do you have anything you'd like to say to our friends in Palestine who are going to be watching this? maybe one day they'll be able to come and visit us in person and we'll be able to meet them, our visitors. That would be good.
That would be amazing. That
Yeah.
would be really lovely.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Jeremy.
They would be made very welcome in this town and given places to stay, for sure.
Here we are in Nick's garden. Hello, Nick.
Hello.
Can you start off by telling us a little bit about yourself? Where are we here? And
Well, yeah, my name is Nick Murray. I live in this small village called Kinnerton, which is right on the Welsh borders. I can tell you how much it is on a border by showing that I am actually standing on Welsh soil at the moment. If we look over here, across the valley, we can see England, and that hillside there is called Hergus Ridge. So you can see how close we are to Wales. Many of us who live in this part of the world are constantly crossing and recrossing the border. You might have your optician in Wales and your dentist in England, you know. To us, borders are very flexible things. Now, I wrote a couple of years ago a book called Crossings, subtitled A Journey Through Borders, and I was looking at the whole concept of borders, both literal one and metaphorical. Borders between countries, of course, but borders between social classes, borders between life and death, and just looking at it from all sorts of angles. But living here, as I have done, I've lived in this place now for 30 years, I'm just accustomed to the idea of living in border country, and I know that in many parts of the world, borders are far from the benign, friendly demarcations we have here. They're very aggressive or dangerous places where people are often humiliated.
you've written your book and done this research and been to many places. Do you have any thoughts about borders, about how we can, whether we should get rid of them, and if we should, how we can?
Well, some people think it's utopian to think that we could do it without them. But if I ruled the world, I would get rid of most of them. I don't see the point. I mean, sometimes they're defensive to keep people out. Sometimes, in some parts of the world, they're to keep people in, to stop them escaping. But they're very seldom, it seems to me, coming from a good place. You know, they're trying to assert somebody's power or control over somebody else. And for that reason, I'm not so keen on it, because everyone on this side of the border immediately thinks that they're special and those people over there are different, and it just creates division amongst human beings when we could do with fewer divisions.
And finally, from your garden here in Wales and England, do you have a message for our Palestinian friends who will be watching this?
Well, all I can say is that I know that your experience of borders falls into the category of it. I know how difficult it is, and believe me, we all sympathise and understand what that means. And we've seen pictures of people queuing to get across the border to work and being roughly treated because border police all over the world, and I have encountered them myself, they're never the jolliest section of the human race. They're like snatching your papers off you and asking hard questions and making it difficult. So wouldn't it be wonderful if there were no armed line between your country and your neighbour. But we shall keep keep being optimistic.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you very much.